in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Hey guys, welcome to the Sunday Surgery, the Elite FPL Sunday Surgery, a name that was coined today by the Daily Llama in our Discord community. You should probably know who he is. Welcome everybody, welcome. We've got a lot of you guys here already waiting to talk about your teams this weekend. We've got FPL Pitch, Resi Desi, FPL Call. We've got Jack Dodd in chat, Simon Andreasen, K-Boy, Ace Adventurer. Welcome Ace, welcome back to the stream, buddy. Nishal, plenty of you guys, Fast Air, and Yash, one of the first early ones as well to be waiting for us to go live. How are you doing, guys? Steve-O's gone small again, but we don't want to go there. We'll sort out Steve-O's internet connection one step at a time, guys. Don't worry, we'll sort it out. I'll just quickly going to call him back. But how are you guys doing anyway? You're going to come on and join us, hopefully all well and good. You can join us tonight and discuss how you got on today. Obviously I'm really happy. United 4-0 winners against Chelsea. I called it. I said 3-0. 4-0 was a bit of a luxury, but I couldn't believe it really. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was a bit unfortunate that Chelsea couldn't put any of their chances away, but being a Wan-Bissaka owner, I was more than happy that they didn't. So, Steve-O, you should be back now. Hopefully it'll be all right to continue. Nuno Santo in chat saying I got 100 points this week, in sixth place, buzzing. Well done, Nuno. I agree with Resi Desi. That's insane. FPL pitched in 108 points. DC got 86. Is that good? Of course it is. I can't believe we've got people saying I've got 86 points. Is that good? That is absolutely brilliant. That's well above the average. 92 points is Cameron Rudge. No Bernardo Silva killed me. Tahir, I feel you, my friend. I was surprised that no Bernardo Silva. And obviously, Mahrez had the game of his life. So United to win the league, says Resi Desi. I wouldn't go that far, but they definitely looked good, didn't they, today? They were good at the back. 77 here says Boona, spewing at the moment. I know he's muted in chat. He can talk in a minute, I'm sure. One Life Soccer TV, 76 points. Not too happy. No, absolutely. If you've got over 70, I would say 75 points or more, you should be pretty happy. I mean, it's a solid score. I mean, it's game week 1. There's plenty more time to make those lost points up. For those of you who did stick with Aubameyang and Kane, well done. Pep killed me, One Life Soccer TV says. I mean, it's always a risk with Pep, isn't it? 91 points says K-Boy, licking my chops, seeing all the people making transfers despite scoring 80 plus points. That's it. I mean, I've seen people in the Discord talking about doing transfers. Don't do transfers, and there's no real reason to do a transfer right now. There's no reason at all to do a transfer. It's very risky doing it now. There's obviously the whole week ahead of us. Anything can happen in training. One of your players could pull up injured. So just, watch out with that. And there's probably not going to be any price rises that anyone's going to be trying to get on at the moment. Maitland-Niles, save my... Maitland-Niles, Alex Volo, absolutely. I was thinking about you, man. When I saw that Maitland-Niles got the assist, I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way. Alex Volo's got Maitland-Niles in his team. That's crazy. I don't do rage transfers. Yeah, exactly, Nuno. Don't do rage transfers. It's very easy to do that. Perez out. David P. I wouldn't take Perez out, no. I wouldn't be rushing to take Perez out your team. I mean, just because he didn't do anything today doesn't mean that he's not a good FPL asset. I mean, we've got 37 more game weeks, guys. You shouldn't be reacting to just one game week. Something is wrong with the screen quality. Is it? Is that what for Steve-O or for the stream? Let me know. Thanks for the Wan-Bissaka tips, this Jason. Sorry, DC. 87 points says Calf in chat. But yeah, we look forward to having you guys come on and talk to us about your teams. 110 points says okay. I don't want to read any more. If you got more points than me, I don't want you to post. All right, I just don't want to post. But anyway, let's see if we can just increase Steve-O's size here. One moment. We can hear you, Steve-O. That's the main thing. There you go. I'm bringing you up to size. So, Steve-O, welcome here, mate. You're looking a bit annoyed. You've been saving a bit of a rant energy, I believe, for this evening. Obviously, you weren't too impressed with Wan-Bissaka getting the 2 points, I don't think. But Steve-O, how's your game week been? I mean, it's 86 points or 88 points, I think you're going to end on. 88 points.
86.
86.
86 points. And no, good evening, everybody. Basically, I am happy with this points this game. It's just deja vu, isn't it? It's just exactly the same as last season. We started off, everybody's getting in the high 80s, 90s, 100s in some people's cases, and again we've kicked off again with you owning a player which does nothing in a 4-0 win other than getting a clean sheet, and surprise, he gets 2 burn. I'm a bit peed off with it. I'm trying to excuse my language. We don't like swearing.
But I watched the game. I watched the game, right? And Wan-Bissaka, like he didn't hardly put a thing right. Like, he made so many tackles, so many clearances and blocks. Like the guy is he's like a super defender. Like he's a fullback that can run forward, but also can really defend. And like I'm not surprised he got in the bonus points. I'm surprised he got bonus 2. But I'm not surprised I am a little bit surprised he got no, I wouldn't be surprised if he got bonus 1, but I am a little bit surprised he got bonus 2. That's how I'm looking to assess that. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Sorry, you carry on.
It's just like I just feel genuinely just like, are we going to be having another blinking season where my differentials are missing out because your differentials are coming in with random bonus, whatever. I mean, Matt Ryan, Wan-Bissaka, I really do understand that. I'm not annoyed about that. I am, but I'm not. The Matt Ryan, though, really annoys me because he's collected more save points and bonus points than he did the whole blinking season last year. And yet you own him. And yet they win 3-0 away at Watford, which I just think Watford's bunch of clowns. You're on my hate list this season. Absolute. I hate him, but
I've got my team up. I've got my team up in front, just so you know. But carry on your rant. I mean, no, I'm enjoying this.
I remember Saka. I perfectly get. And what's a bit disheartening to me is that if I'd have stuck to my 4-4-2, I'd have been basically the same points as you, barring 3 or 4. That's about it. Me and you would be on virtually the same points. So I mean, I can't. I'm happy, right? I'm just annoyed with certain factors that have gone completely against me. I mean, I don't want to keep banging on about Matt Ryan, but I mean, I think he's getting me back from basically me saying that I didn't want him in my team for what he did to me last season, and what he didn't do to me last season was get me any clean sheets, save points. Couldn't even get me a single save point. Yet one game in, he gets you a save point and a flaming bonus. But let's get on with today's games. We're not talking about yesterday. We're talking about today. And yeah, Leicester 0-0. Are Wolves going to be, very good, Daily Llama. Daily Llama saying that Jason trying to do the stream without looking like a Cheshire cat. If anybody hasn't seen it, Jason put together a wonderful video from the stream that we did for 5 hours, and I highly recommend people just watch a 2-minute video about the Steve-O Jason rivalry. It's just enjoyable. But Leicester 0-0. Are Wolves going to be the kind of team that after Europe they just sit back and soak up all the pressure? They've got a good enough defence to hold out for a draw. People, when you're coming live on air, if you've watched the games, let myself and Jason know how the games went, because I want to get informed. What FPL Boona did for us when he went to watch the game, that was Spurs versus Aston Villa. It was really, really insightful about Kane especially and Lamella. So that'd be fantastic if anybody has insights into when they watch the game, how people like Perez look, Tielemans, Vardy, Doherty, etc. You get the idea with that. But Pereira getting 3 bonus, Bowley and Evans. On to Newcastle versus Arsenal. The history got that bang on the nose. I want to give a shout out to Kev, aka Statman, regular caller to the show. He did say it'd be a very, very tight game. He said that people shouldn't captain Aubameyang. Aubameyang did come up with a goal though, mind, but he didn't get any bonus. And now again, very strange bonus system here. So Aubameyang got the goal, Maitland-Niles assist. I get the fact that Maitland-Niles got 3 bonus, Socrates 2, Monreal 1, and Leno got 1, and he only made 2 save points, unless he made like 30,000 completed passes to, whoever was in defence. I don't understand how he got 1 bonus point, but he did. Now then, on to Man United 4, Chelsea nil, and it looked like. Let me finish the go for it, and I'll ask you the question, and I'll get your thoughts, Jason. It sounded like De Gea had a masterclass. Chelsea looked like they bombarded that goal, and Man United just took their chances and scored. So we had Rashford with 2, Martial, Lingard, and Pogba with 2 assists, and Pereira. Rashford with 3 bonus points. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, as we already discussed, with 2, and De Gea with 2. Jason, Man United today, are you confident moving forward?
Well, I wouldn't say first and foremost. I watched the game. Chelsea had their chances. I'm not gonna lie. They hit the post. They hit the inside of the crossbar. David De Gea pulled off a great save. I mean, to be fair with you, it was only like 3 or 4 chances that you could have said that they could have possibly have scored. But other than that, I mean, United were pretty good in defence and just kind of shunted out any attacks quite early, really. I mean, Maguire had a great game. Wan-Bissaka had a great game. And I don't know, I think the only way I can say it, and I'm sure chat, you guys can tell me if I'm on to the right sort of thing here, but the way I look at it is that I think the confidence of the team is higher now. I think when there was mistakes being made with Smalling and Jones, and even De Gea was making mistakes, and like, I don't know, it's only been 1 game, but to me, I just feel more confident with United now going forward, because even if we only score 1 or 2 goals, like, I don't see us conceding many now. And like, I did think this game was going to be 3-0 to United. It ended up being 4-0.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely comfortable with owning Wan-Bissaka in my team, and anyone that's thinking of bringing in Wan-Bissaka or Maguire, like someone was saying about bringing in Maguire, I would go Wan-Bissaka any day over Maguire. Maguire's a solid defender, but Wan-Bissaka, he seems to just have this ability to just attract bonus points. Like he did it last season. Dan James, we'll get onto Dan James as well. He had a great game. When he came on, he played really well. He got like that 4th goal. But Rashford had a good game. I felt he was really solid. Lingard had some great runs. He got chopped a couple of times, going past 2 or 3 Chelsea players. But I mean, as a whole, I thought Pogba seemed, because a key for United is what sort of player, what Paul Pogba will step out onto the field, and he seemed to be up for it. And if we can keep ticking over like that and enjoying the football, and Paul Pogba's got a smile on his face and not stropping, then United could be. I mean, yeah, we did look a little bit vulnerable in midfield. It does show that we could probably do with a world class like midfielder. But to be fair with you, I mean, we did put away our chances. We created some great opportunities, and yeah, I couldn't be happier, to be honest. I really couldn't be any happier.
That's a great question from Littman. Thoughts on Martial? Is he a good option at 7.5? And I'll add to that. Is he somebody that we could get in instead of Fraser?
Well, I have always said that I'm going to wait and see on United, but I think, I mean, it's easy to just jerk on this performance and be like, right, okay, United just won 4-0. But I just think that Bournemouth, I mean, if you've got double Bournemouth ready with Wilson, Fraser, I think going to Martial isn't a risk. I think that Martial will be in with the goals. I just think he's playing out of position. He's a midfielder. It's at the same price. I think you can take that gamble. I really do think you can take that gamble. And Bournemouth were looking pretty toothless yesterday. So, earlier? Oh God, it wasn't yesterday. It was earlier today. Oh, this day's been so long. But no, in seriousness, I just feel.
It was yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday. Yeah. I only had 4 hours sleep. I only had 4 hours sleep last night. It still feels like it's Saturday for me right now. But yeah. So that United game, really happy with. I think if you're looking to bring in Martial, then I completely understand why. Let's read a few comments out by the chat very quickly. I'm thinking about getting McGinn in, says Arafat. I mean, I looked at McGinn. It looks like a really good option. And the fixtures for Aston Villa are obviously looking really nice now. Lee Brunt's in chat saying he got 91 points. Daniel James could be an option. Yeah, but the minutes, it's not guaranteed minutes. I would always be looking for solid starters. And I think that like Ari Hiroki saying trap in chat. I mean, I think you've got to be a bit careful with United. I mean, I think if you're willing to take the risk, do it. But if you're being quite safe, like me, I'm playing the game quite safe. I'm not going to jump on Man United players just yet. I'm going to wait. Obviously, I've got Wan-Bissaka. That's one United player. I'm certainly going to wait before I double up on them. That's just my opinion. So, anyway, Steve-O, what do we see who we've got waiting to come on?
I want to get Dereko's waiting, and there's loads of questions that I want to ask him. But straight away, let's ask him about the Chelsea performance today, because I'm fascinated by this.
Okay, Dereko, you're on the Sunday's surgery that we've coined it. Dereko, Chelsea fan, tell me, did you watch the game today?
Yes, I did.
And
not very happy, am I?
Are you not happy because of the way that Chelsea weren't clinical in their finishing, or are you not happy with the performance at the back? A few mistakes. Obviously, Zuma unfortunately making a few errors. Christensen slipping and sliding all over the place, and obviously United taking their chances. They were ruthless today, weren't they?
Yeah. So my main issue, basically, in terms of because of FPL, my main issue is, why did Barkley play on the left? In pre-season, he did not play one game out on the left. Not once. And anytime someone played on the left, it was either Mason Mount or Pulisic in that three cam formation.
Yeah.
So why all of a sudden, when you know they've got a fast right back, would you put Barkley, which is one of our slowest midfielders, on that left side, when he's played every game and he does best in the middle? I don't understand, and I'm seeing Chelsea fans saying, "Oh, he played bad." Well, he's not playing the way he's been playing all pre-season, so I don't understand why that last-minute change happened. And also, with the substitution, why take him off when clearly we're struggling in terms of physicality? When you look at the game, every player on that pitch, McTominay, Pogba, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, they're all bigger than our players. And you take off our strongest midfielder. How does that make sense? And you bring on Pulisic, which is a lightweight. It doesn't make sense to me. So I think Lampard panicked a bit, or I don't know what went wrong.
I was going to ask, do you think that Lampard seemed a little bit out of his depth today?
I don't know. It's too early to judge. Obviously, I'm not gonna say it's Lampard's fault or whatever. But it's just that it's a weird situation. I fully expected Barkley to start in the middle, and even if he didn't return, I wouldn't have minded. But playing him on the left, you're just taking him out of his best position, which is it's weird. Even to actually get something in the game, not forget FPL, it's not the right decision in my opinion to play him out on that left side. So
were you surprised that Pulisic didn't start the game?
Not really. I wasn't surprised. I thought it would be either Pulisic or Mason Mount. What I was surprised about is where Mason Mount played, because I think I said even on one of the streams, I said it would be either Pulisic, Barkley, and Pedro, and Pedro, or it would be Mason Mount, Barkley, and Pedro. But I didn't. When I said that, I meant Mason Mount would be on the left, where he played in pre-season, and Barkley would be in the middle, and then Pedro on the right. But then he's just switched it up out of nowhere, which is so interesting. And it cost me.
Do you think
Barkley was my punt pick, and it cost me? So, yeah.
Do you
and
think
obviously
that
coming off
why...
at 57 minutes. Sorry, Steve-O, but him coming off at 57 was the icing on the cake, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve-O.
Do you think that the reason why he switched up changed it a bit? I mean, I didn't watch the game. I'm not going to proclaim that I watch football. Unfortunately, I can't watch football. But do you think he just panicked and thought that he wanted to go conservative potentially?
Well, no, because his first change was Pulisic, which shows that he's trying to go more attacking, as he runs down the line and tries to cut in and cross it or do something with the ball in and around the box. But it just bringing him on, he should have taken off Mason Mount, the player with the least experience in the Premier League, and kept Barkley, because Barkley has the physicality over Mason Mount. That's where I just don't understand what the thought process was there.
Have you posted your team in the Rate My Team? Are you able to post your point score by any chance? Is that all right?
I can do it.
Cool, thank you.
Well, hold a minute. Well, before you post it, I want to see your second team, not your first team, your second team, director, because your
Okay.
second team, everybody's going to want to see this because this is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And
Let me
just of interest, why have you got 2 teams as well?
So my thought process behind that was last year I was very indecisive, like jumped the gun a lot, made a lot of rash decisions. So I was in my head I thought my main account I'm gonna play it smart and safe, and then my second account I can have fun with and just do like for example I triple captain Sterling first day. I would never do that on my main account, but obviously on my second account I don't really care as much because I'm not in like cash leagues or anything. So I can do whatever on that.
To be fair, I'm telling you now, you'd be lucky. Anybody will be lucky to get a hat trick and 3 bonus points and a clean sheet on a triple captain this season. And I think you played. I personally think you played an absolute blinder, my friend. I know it's your second team, but I really do think.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
Dunk 11 points. I've got it here. Ryan in goal, 9 points. Dunk 11 points. Zinchenko 6. Ake getting the 2. Sterling with 60 points, triple captained. De Bruyne 7, and then disappointingly you got St Maxim and Zaha with returning 1 each. And it's crazy. You've got three players that are completely blanked, and you still got 121. You have got Kane, vice captain is 13 points. Aubameyang and Wilson returning 6 and 5 respectively, and. Yeah, that's just mental, absolutely mental. And obviously, we'll go to your main team because this is the team that's in the community in the cash league. This is the team that means something to you. This is the logical picks. These are surely the logical picks that you went with. And my initial question I want to ask you now. I know you've got Barkley there. Are you thinking? Okay, we just had a few people asking in chat about Martial. Are you thinking Barkley? I know it's 6.5, not 7.5, but. Is Barkley going to be a mainstay in your team? Are you going to stay? Are you going to stay with Barkley, or are you thinking now that you're uncertain in the position, you're uncertain about the minutes?
So yeah, I'm going to give him at least 1 more week because I always said even before the season started, I said he's going to get at least 2 games to see how he does. So he's definitely going to play for that's going to be my exact team next week. That's just how it is there. It's going to be again next week. No changes, no transfers. Yeah. I've still got $1 million in the bank. After next week, I'm going to look over the data, see who's done well and whatnot, and I'm going to move from there. So it's going to be basically either Barkley, Wilson, and Fraser. Those are the 3 players that I'm going to have to look to move with my 2 transfers.
Notorious Nerd says McGinn in chat. I mean, is that someone you're looking at possibly? Because obviously you've got the 5-man midfield. Obviously McGinn looked really good in pre-season and he's obviously scored. Is he on your radar at all, McGinn, at that price point? Or are you thinking of using that $1 million and upgrading to Martial or another player of 7 million or more?
McGinn not right now. I'm looking at Rashford, Pogba. I wanted Pogba from the start, but I bottled it a bit. But yeah, Martial, Pogba, those 2 are my. Yeah. After what I've seen today, United, if they keep playing like this, if they play well against Wolves, then I'm definitely going to get some sort of United players in.
I think they will. I think they will play well. I think. There's not enough data to show that they're going to be different this season in terms of their mentality, but I've just got a gut feeling that this year United are going to be surprising a lot of people in the FPL community. Now, obviously, another name that I've seen in chat as well, Adrian for Liverpool. I know you've tripled up on Liverpool, so I can't ask you directly. Yeah, that's another one that Philippe. Adrian is another one that's being highly talked about at the moment. Obviously, the unfortunate injury to Alisson, I think 6 to 8 weeks it's looking like he's going to be out for. So a good way into that Liverpool defence if you've only got one like myself. But yeah, I mean, looking at that team, it's not. There's no real things that you need to operate on. I mean, Fraser. I mean, him getting 1 point. I mean, in another game, he can easily return your point. So it's just. You've got to be patient with these players, really, haven't you?
That's why I'm not making any transfers this week. And obviously next week I'll have to do something because I'll have 2 transfers. And I don't know if it's good to waste the transfer and let it go 3 days in a row, 3 weeks in a row without transferring. I'm not sure if that's a good thing to do. But yeah.
I mean, it's not.
Is
It's not a
that
common.
something that people do? Yeah.
Some people do it. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I think it's the mentality of it's the mentality of knowing that you've got 2 free transfers, and that if you don't do anything, you're gonna lose a transfer. But I think there are people that have done it and have done well for just basically sticking to the team that they've got. But I mean, there's always genuinely like a transfer that you can do. Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, so from a Chelsea point of view, it's one game. I mean, like Lampard said, learn from the fact that if you don't take your chances, these things can happen, and move forward. Really.
Yeah, I'm in terms of, if you put FPL aside, I'm not upset with the game at all. I've said Lampard, he gets a free season. He can, even if he finishes 8th, 9th, I don't care. Honestly, I don't care, because I know for a fact if they give him the second season, next summer they're gonna buy big players. They will buy some sort of marquee signing, some sort of winger or striker, someone big that we don't know yet, but there will be someone. We'll have to, if our ambitions are to go and win the league again, or get far in the Champions League or win it, there'll be a big signing. Yeah, there'll have to be.
Derecho, thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Yes, Steve, go ahead, man.
No. It's all right. It's just unrelated. Anyway, I was just going to say that I just want to say congratulations to a good friend of ours, well, mine, and a regular watcher of this stream. It's a friend of mine, Nick Reed. He got 104 points.
Top of the Torbay Elite.
Right up there.
No,
in our Catch Mini League.
Yeah. The Torbay Elite. Oh, the Elite FPL.
Yeah. He's also in our one as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So he had Aubameyang and Martial and Wan-Bissaka playing today, 104 blinking points. And, well done to you, Nick. Congratulations.
Well done, Nick.
I got you early.
Well done.
That'll
well
be
done.
A tenner.
Right, okay. So thank you ever so much for joining us. I really appreciate you jumping in, Derecho, and hopefully we'll speak again during the week and previewing Game Week 2.
We'll do. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, buddy. No, thank you for coming on. So a reminder, guys, if you want to come and join us on air, we're live now for the foreseeable future. Come and wait in the waiting room, and we'll find out how your team did. And Steve-O, I'm just going to bring your team up actually on the screen and just ask you a few questions if I can find it. Just bear with me a second.
I'm 9th.
Yeah, I got you.
No.
So, Steve, you're on 86 points. Anyone tuning into the stream at the start would think that you've had a really bad game week. You're frustrated. You're only 12 points behind me. It's not a massive difference, and it's all fallen down to you. It's all fallen down to 4 players, really, hasn't it? One, obviously Wesley. Wesley. Well, it's obviously the blanks as well. Perez, Sigurdsson. Obviously Sigurdsson blank for you. Fraser blank.
What I mean is that Matt Ryan getting 2 bonus. Well, 1 bonus on top of Pope. The Wan-Bissaka 2 extra bonus points. I don't care about the De Bruyne extra as well. The 2 extra, and the De Bruyne one. So that's what. So it's 5 points on top extra. Yeah. That's just really, really frustrating, to be honest. That's what I'm most frustrated by those bonus points, because I just find it really frustrating when a team has won so highly and that yet the bonus points haven't even been given to the attacking players or whatever. I find that frustrating, but I get it in a 1-0 win, 2-0 win. But again, you've told me about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He put in about 1,000 clearances. David De Gea had the game of his life. You know what I mean. And like I said, I'm not got a problem. It's just the fact that I just feel
it's fine.
This season like last season.
Well, I've got to ask you a few questions. I mean, you can answer them as honestly as possible, really. Is there anyone in your team right now that you're looking at and thinking, I've got to get you out?
No. The only one that I'm looking at that I'm thinking, I kind of wish I never got you, is Wesley. But
why? His fixtures turn green now.
Well, because I'm the kind of fantasy football player which looks at real life stats, their actual returns. And I was listening to a podcast earlier on today, previewing the Premier League, And basically, they were talking about the Wesley signing, and they said he did okay in the Belgium league. Nothing, he didn't pull up trees. And then I'm thinking, well, some of the South American experts were saying about how Wesley's the kind of player that doesn't really score many goals. He mainly holds up the ball and creates for people around. And I'm thinking, alarm bells are ringing here, Steve-O, and you've gone and got him in. But again, I'm not changing any players. I'm happy with this team for next week. There was no players in this. I'm not doing any emergency transfers. I'm not doing the older, what seems to be the Elite FPL community transfer, which seems to be McGinn in for Fraser, and that'll be interesting for the community team. The community team's done very well, 88 points.
Yeah,
well done.
Can we get the community team up?
No, because unfortunately, I haven't entered any league other than
enter it into the tour. No, I can't enter it into the community league, and we'll.
I'll tell you what. I'll take a screenshot. I'll just take a screenshot, put it in the Discord.
Yeah, but, sounds good.
Good. Jason, I'm happy with this score. I mean, people like FPL Booner in the waiting room now / you know what I mean, waiting to come on. He's on 77.
I want to get Booner on. He's going to be a lot
more disheartened than me.
He's left us.
Get him on.
It's Booner, come on and join us on air, dude. Come on. Oh, I need to speak to you about your score this week. Let's find Booner's team actually. So read some comments out in chat as well. Why is he triggered?
Very, very happy.
Michael C in chat's asking why is he triggered? Why are you triggered?
Triggered?
Yeah.
As in angry?
Yeah.
We've already gone over this a thousand times. Yeah. If you haven't been watching the stream, I'm not going to flame and go over it again.
It's because of the rivalry. It's because of the rivalry, that's why. Let's see if Bruno will join us on an air now. I'm trying to find him.
15 minutes today.
Do you know where he is?
He said he's 15 minutes. He can't come on for 15
okay, no
minutes.
worries. No worries. Shining 9. No, Shining 9's joined us. Shining 9, welcome. You're live on the Sunday Surgery with myself and Steve-O. Is this your first time on?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you. Shining, welcome to the stream. Could you do me a favour and just post your team in the Discord for me?
Yeah, I can in a second.
That'd be great. That'd be cool. So Shining 9, how long have you been a member of the community?
I've joined this summer.
This summer? So what? A matter of a few weeks then?
Yeah, like in July, I believe.
And whereabouts are you from, Shining?
Oh wow!
I'm from Poland.
From Poland, jak se máš?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dobrze. So yeah, do you want to if you post your team in the Rate My Team on Discord, we can bring it up. Can you let us know how many? Oh, he's gone. Hopefully he'll be back in a minute. But Steve-O's I've
just posted that community team in the Discord.
Wow, it's done. That's
your community team, everybody.
It's done all right, isn't it?
Well done.
It's done all right.
Yeah, I'm. You know, you look at that team and you think, moving forward, you know, the question will be when we do, what we'll do on Monday evening, I reckon, Jason, is ask you guys. So listen up, everybody that's listening.
Yeah, Steve, are you breaking up, buddy? Let's give Steve a ring back. His internet connection is really poor tonight. I'm really sorry, guys. We'll get him back. It's a really good photo. That's a great screenshot of him, isn't it? To be fair. Let's see if we can get him back. Steve-O's fuming, says Simon Andreasen in chat. UK lad laughing away. Are we going to be able to get him back? That's the question. Try him again. Shining 9, you're back on air. Have you posted your team by any chance?
Oh, sorry, I disconnected for a while.
No worries. Are you able to post your team in the Rate My Team channel at all?
Yes, I did.
What time did you post it?
Just now.
I don't think you posted it in the Rate My Team. I think you may have posted it in the wrong channel. Let's quickly have a look to see where you posted it. Hello, Steve-O. Welcome
Was
back.
I just talking to myself for the past 5 minutes? I was actually really enjoying what I was saying.
Well, I didn't hear what you're saying. No, unfortunately, you broke up and then you disconnected completely from the call. So, but we've got Shining 9 on air at the moment. Oh, it did. He's gone again. Never mind. I think Shining 9's having issues, the same issues you're having. But we've got we've got to just hear what you had to say. What were you saying, Steve-O? Sorry.
Well, what did you hear? I was just talking about the community team and
You were
about how we're going to be. Yeah. So what we're going to do tomorrow evening, for when we go through the mini leagues, is that we will ask you guys: do you want to make a transfer to this community Elite FPL team? If you guys vote in the Discord and say yes, we will then put up another poll and simply say, right, which position do you want to change? And then you'll obviously say goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, striker. You all vote through that. And then we will then be able to put up the poll for which player we're going to get rid of and then for who. Quite simple, really. So make sure you get involved tomorrow evening where we make some form of decision. Tomorrow evening, basically, we've got a few people now in chat, so we may as well get on. Well, it's got to be Sultan Saeed. He's been with us since what? Game week 1? Since we ever first joined YouTube, I think.
I'll bring him in.
This is an honour.
Sultan Saeed, you're live on air with Jason and Steve-O on this Sunday Surgery podcast, talking about digesting the scores over the weekend. And have you posted your team? Sultan, are you there first and foremost?
Evening, gents.
Yeah, welcome. I am. A long-time viewer of us, Sultan. You've been with us for probably almost the beginning, isn't that right?
So I joined the Discord, I believe, in May. And I've been a regular viewer since around December, 2018.
So 2 months after. So we started in October. Yeah, I thought it was longer than that. That's crazy, Sultan. Thank you for all your support.
So
and
yes, absolutely.
You posted your team in the Discord. You got 92 points. You're getting returns from your Man City players. You got returns from Martial, the midfielder. I love the Martial pick. You've got to be happy with that. And
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if I told you were going to get 92 points game week 1, you'd been ecstatic, wouldn't you?
Definitely. On the Martial pick there, I was toying with whether to go with Fraser, Mora. I'm just glad I went with the right one, and even De Bruyne. And they all got De Bruyne got 7 as well, didn't he? So I think in terms of value, I definitely won that battle there.
I mean, looking at that team, you're pretty much set for next week, aren't you?
Yeah. Hopefully, you should be able to go in without making a transfer. Give me a nice advantage for game week 3.
A few people in Discord were obviously concerned about Perez, about owning him going forward because this one game week he's blanked. Are you one of those people?
To be honest, I didn't even know they would have thought that, but I'm definitely not. I'm going to watch match today, see how he did on the highlights.
I own Perez, and I'm certainly not thinking that at the moment. I think you got to give it at least more than one game.
Isn't it?
It is early days, absolutely. And I don't think you really need to do anything to that team. You're pretty much set. You've got Martial in ahead of the potential goals that people are going to miss out on from Man United. And the only thing I will say, you ain't got Wan-Bissaka in there, but you can't have them all, can you?
You can, and just like thinking of game week 3, maybe what I could do is take out that
Saka in there, but you can't have them all, can you?
Getting a bit of feedback there from Steve-O.
Yeah, I think he's sorted it now. So yeah, you were thinking about what? Sorry.
Probably gonna take out King, I think, in game week 3. They got City game week 3, I think, haven't they?
Game week 4, I think it is.
Just have a look.
Is it game week 3 or game week 4? I think it was game week. Double check.
Game week 3, yeah, they got City. So
it is game week 3. Yeah, you're right.
So that could be one transfer, and I'll just have to see how game week 2 goes, and then can evaluate my thoughts and see what I want to do. But
save a transfer. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, game week 3. Yeah, absolutely. Sultan, really. So you got to be happy. And whereabouts are you in the in your mini leagues?
So I'm actually in the Elite FPL Challenge League, and I believe. Let me just have a look. think I'm around 22nd, but I could be wrong.
Possibly moving up with obviously Martial. Those points for Martial haven't been added yet, have they?
18th on the live
Oh,
FPL.
well, that's
right now.
that's pretty good for the cash league anyway. Capkin, welcome to the stream,
Yeah.
buddy. I appreciate you stopping in, bud. So yeah, anything else you'd like to say before we get our next caller on? I mean, that's a great score and that's a great team. And going forward, you should be pretty comfortable. Obviously, other than maybe taking out a Bournemouth asset before the City game. I mean, it seems like you got a plan.
Yeah, thank you. No, I'd just like to say it's been absolutely brilliant watching all this Elite FPL over the last couple of months, and
I want to.
thank you for the Just go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
I want to ask you, what let's be honest here. You're up there with the Brett Mollison, the FPL Boone, Daily Llama. You're up there with our top fans. I can't believe that you've only been watching since December. How have you felt being part of this? Well, this community basically, and it's seen it grown since, as you joked I'm sure it was you that put up about to think that we've been streaming to 10 viewers through a mobile phone, and now we're doing it through HD cameras and streaming to what is now 170 people. What? How do you feel about it?
It's incredible, yeah. I think I can't remember how many views you used to have when I watched in December, but it must have been, say, 25 or something. And now I'm expecting whenever I come to this stream at least about 150 minimum. So it's incredible, really, yeah. And I just noticed a subscriber count 1.6k. I think it wasn't even 300.
I think the main thing is have you guys come on. The more people that know about the show, the more people come on the show and give their opinions. The diversity, the variety, that's the key. And we want to just make sure that we've got that. And we seem to be getting that now almost every stream. So it's a pleasure to have you on, Sultan Saeed. And I'll speak to you hopefully soon.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers now. Thank you very much. Right, so that was Sultan, a long-time viewer of ours. It's crazy that to think that he's been with us since all the way back in December. And we've got a few other people waiting to come on. I know Shining 9 was here, all the way from Poland. Shining 9, you're back on air. Hopefully your connection is going to be okay. We just want to quickly look at your team.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's no worries. So here we go. 87 points, your score. We've got the unfortunate double up of Watford. I was saying to all the people that came on the show before the game week 1 started, I was not looking or considering anyone from Watford. I know that was quite a few popular picks. I saw a few people with Holobas. I didn't see that many people with Deeney. Are you now thinking that these Watford players are kind of transferable options? Are you thinking of swapping them out for other players?
I wanted to pick a team with a lot of differentials, and I feel Watford has a nice fixtures. I'm thinking about replacing Holebas, somebody, but Dini, I think he's nailed on penalties, so I'm going to leave him, and I plan to play the wild card after game week 4.
After game week 4, you plan to play the wild cards. You said Watford have some nice fixtures. You are aware that they're away at Liverpool next week?
Huh? No, they're not. That's the following week, surely. Liverpool at home, away to Southampton.
Watford plays Everton away.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
No. I'm on the history tab, sorry. I'm on the wrong... No, away at Liverpool, round 2, 17th of August.
Huh? No, I'm telling you now, Jason, it's Liverpool.
I've literally got it in front of me. I'm reading this wrong. Am I reading this wrong?
No.
Yes, you are.
Okay, there you go then.
Watford are away at Everton, and that's got, because both teams can't score, that's got 0-0 written all over it straight away. So you may as well keep Holebas.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to think about it for a week, and then we'll see.
I mean, if you had have come on to rate my team pre-season,
okay, that's really
prior to it all kicking off, me and Jason would have said get rid of Van Aanholt, get rid of Holebas, get rid of Deeney. But you've come through. Admittedly, Van Aanholt got you 6 points. come through with 87 points. You must be overjoyed with that. I mean, the Aubameyang and Leno picks have come right through. I would hold that team, if I'm honest with you. I'd hold that team. I think it's fine. I'd save the transfer. But again, it's up to you.
Absolutely. I would listen to Steve-O's advice because I don't even know who they're playing. So there you go.
Yeah, like I said, I like to pick differential players. I enjoy that. And definitely today games helped me because Leno got like 7 points, Oba 6, Wan-Bissaka 6. So I'm quite happy. And of course, a lot of players use the triple captain or the bench boost. So
yeah,
also
a lot of players
ahead because of that.
A lot of players using their triple captain and are only like 4 or 5 points ahead of you. So
yeah,
you know,
I'm not worried.
But then I always agree with other people that say that triple captain isn't the be all or end all. Anyway, it's not the major chip. But thank you for coming on, Shining Nine, and thank you for sharing your team with us. And I like to see the differentials you've got with Van Aanholt. And
before we get Ramsey Sinclair on, because you've got to get him on because you're going to love his striker. For everybody that's watching this, if you haven't hit that like button, please just hit that like button. Just shows your support in one simple click away. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, you haven't subscribed to the show, just hit that subscribe button. We are a Elite FPL call-in show. You can get everything off your chest live, speaking to the hosts. It's all unique. It's all different. Hit that subscribe button, and we can move on to Ramsey Sinclair. Jason, because this is a fantastic game week 1 team, at least.
Ramsey, you're live on air on the Sunday Surgery with me and Steve-O. I trust you've posted your team.
Yeah. It's just above the community team.
Let's have a look. There we go. Ramsey,
Rashford.
Ramsey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. That's fine. So you got
fantastic.
For the people listening in on audio, he's got Ryan in goal with 9 points, as we all know. Robertson, unfortunately, as his solo Liverpool defender, getting a 2-point haul. Walker with the 8 points. So on the upwards now, we've got Digne with 6 points and Wan-Bissaka with the 8 points. Now the mighty double up of Sterling and Salah, 20 and 24, and obviously captain Salah to get the 24, and Perez and Richarlison unfortunately not doing much for you with King. And then the key one is Rashford really bringing it home for you today. 98 points. You've got to be over moon with that.
I couldn't be happier. Especially with Rashford, because got laughed at a bit for the Rashford pick as well, which was
That's it's the same score as me. I mean, I'm chuffed to bits, and you couldn't have asked for a better start. I mean, you're gonna be roughly around the 50, 60, maybe 70,000 in the world.
Yeah, I think it's around about 70,000.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of people probably on the same score as
yeah,
well,
exactly.
So
It's
where you really are.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, first game week you can't really take much notice about the overall rank anyway due to that reason.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, that's great. Have you got any issues in your team that you're looking at changing, or are you pretty much set for the game week 2?
Yeah, well, I built this team for a good 10 weeks really. I wasn't. I'm not really looking at any transfers. Maybe Perez to come out. I'm kind of looking at McGinn, but I don't know. I don't think it's worth making any moves, especially the way that Chelsea performed. And I think Leicester play them next, so Perez could do okay.
They didn't look
Chelsea.
very convincing at the back, did they?
No, exactly. Yeah. Zuma had a really bad game. He was kept on sticking his legs out and.
Yeah, he didn't look very comfortable. It didn't look like his normal, usual confident self. Thank you so much for the subscribes, guys. I appreciate it. Abdul, Kevin, and Berg. Yes, thank you so much. So whereabouts? You're in the cash league, Ramsey. I can't remember now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm in the cash league. Yeah.
I'm just sorry. I have to keep asking people. I will remember.
Oh no.
So you'll be in around about the 10th place mark then. 10,
really?
12, I think 10. I think around the 10 to 12 place mark, I'd imagine. It's crazy about how many people are reaching the 100 mark in the cash league. It's quite scary.
I know,
actually.
It's unbelievable. The scores in this league are crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Ramsey, I mean, that's great. Have you got any final words to say? Because we can't really say much about your team being. There's no real risks in there. I mean, it was interesting picking Richarlison. Obviously, why did you choose Richarlison over Sigurdsson? Was it purely his form in early season form? That's what convinced you?
Well, to be honest, I like the exciting players, and I just think that Richarlison was the more exciting option than Sigurdsson, if you know what I mean.
Okay, that's fair.
I think he's a bit more explosive than Sigurdsson. I could see him getting a brace, in a game here and there.
Steve-O, you got any further thoughts to ask Ramsey?
I just agree. I mean, I'm just going to do the old thing of Ramsey. You've been a fan of the show for many months. How are you finding the whole new setup with it being an Elite FPL call-in now?
Oh, I love it to bits. I've really enjoyed this weekend. I think, with the hangout and everything and everybody talking, everybody's been friendly to each other. I think it's fantastic. Really good fun. It's made the season just so much better.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of it.
Yeah. Oh, and I did want to say as well, I just think so many people are sleeping on Man United, and it's going to surprise a lot of people this season.
Are you a Man United fan?
Yes.
Okay, sounds a bit biased there, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, you've had the perfect game week. Rashford and Aaron Wan-Bissaka coming in for you there, and I think excellent score and fair play to getting in that top 10 of the Cash Mini League, my friend.
All you needed to do
very much for having me.
All you needed to do was have Martial instead of Richarlison. But anyway, take it easy, buddy.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
I'm just looking at Nuno Santo's team because he's actually airing something that I was thinking earlier on. All this talk of VAR giving loads of penalties this game week, all wrong. 2 penalties out of 10 games. There was an incident at the Wolves game where a goal was disallowed. Do you know much about what happened there, Jason?
I heard about this. It was something about a handball, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'm asking you. I don't have a clue.
I wasn't watching the game. I just heard about it. I think it was something about a handball. I'm sure someone in chat could probably let me know. But yeah, it was rightfully disallowed as well. It wasn't obviously with VAR they've got the
FPL booner straight in there. It was actually a Dendoncker goal, but Bowley handballed it. Could you imagine if Dendoncker had scored?
Dendoncker on the benches of many. I mean, we even had a Dendoncker Appreciation Day last week in the Discord as well. Like, there's so many people that own him, and that would have got people talking if Dendoncker had got that goal. So thank you ever so much for letting us know the Bolly and ball.
Cheers, David Hackinson. He can't stay with us. He has to. He's going to watch GNA. I have no idea what that is, but have a good one, lad. No, thank you for joining us. That's the important thing. Thank you for the support.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like the stream, hit the like button as well before you go.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Let's go to the next caller.
Next caller. Talcol's been waiting for a while. So Talcol 30, you're live on the Sunday surgery with Steve-O and Jason. Welcome, buddy. How are you getting on this weekend?
I'm doing really good. I think this is my first season, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Have you posted your team at all in the RMT channel?
Yes, 822.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. Well, first and foremost, let's bring it up and say, you haven't got. What's your point score here? Do you want to just tell me?
88.
88 point score. Brilliant. Thank you. It saves me from adding it all up. So yeah, I mean, you've got to be a little bit disappointed with Robertson, but it's certainly not a player that you're going to be looking to take out your team anytime soon. Disappointed in Fraser, but again, Fraser being a player which is in for the long haul. Really, Perez, I wouldn't be too concerned about him. It's just, yeah.
Isn't this the team that you had? The 4-5-1?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, but instead of it's not exactly. It's one player out, and that one. I mean, it's not really, but it's instead of Robertson, it was TAA.
All right, okay.
So it's virtually the same team. So yeah, you've done really well. You started it really well. You're probably a little bit disappointed with Bournemouth, but a lot of people were disappointed with Bournemouth. How are you feeling going into game week 2? Are you set?
I'm set. I don't see any changes I can do. I was really surprised that a lot of people were transferring out Robertson, while he only one game that he didn't get a clean sheet or an assist, and everyone.
Remember, I always keep saying this. You've got people like us that are the hardcore fantasy football players, which read statistics, watch shows like this and everything, and they're the ones that keep calm and don't panic. The other 5 million, they don't care. They just play this game for what it is, and that's why Robertson's been transferred out. He did nothing, so they've probably just transferred in Trent Alexander-Arnold or Van Dijk, one of the two. I can guarantee you that.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed also in Fraser, but and they played really bad. Another against Aston Villa. I think they'll play even worse.
I mean, at the end of the day, you've got almost 90 points. Game week 1, you're set for game week 2. You've got to take it how it is, really. And I mean, you got 9 points from Ryan, your goalkeeper, who, let's be honest, we both own him. We weren't expecting that. That's a nice little bonus. So it's almost made up. It's almost made up for your little point loss there with Robertson. So absolutely. I mean, I think you're set. Are you planning an early wild card, or are you just going to wait and see?
I think I'm going to wait and see. I don't see as of now. I don't see a wild card in game week 4.
We were just talking about Liverpool just now. The question to you both from Seb Fox: does anyone think that Alisson injury could affect Liverpool's clean sheet potential? My simple answer is no. I think Adrian's a very, very good goalkeeper. What about you, Jason?
I would rate Alisson higher than Adrian in terms of as a goalkeeper. I just think you've got to really look at the centre backs. I mean, if Gomez didn't look that comfortable, I think that if Gomez settles into the team, obviously it's early season. You know, he was out of position a few times. Van Dijk was seen shouting at him multiple times during the game. It's little things like, it doesn't matter how good your goalkeeper is if your left back is playing on a player, keeping a player on side. You know, Van Dijk's playing the offside trap and Robertson's furthest man back. I mean, you're going to concede goals. It's all about the discipline of the defence at the end of the day. I don't think Liverpool are suddenly going to turn into a team that's going to sponge goals. No. But I just think that, do I think it's like at the beginning of the season, people were saying almost you have to have double Liverpool defence, you know, with the value that's in them. Do I think now that it's, I mean, with the pick of Adrian, yeah, I do. But if you were going with Trent and Robertson, then you could spend that money elsewhere.
Before we let you go, Talco, I'll ask you this quick question then. I mean, it's a bit of a hindsight question now, but if you knew that Adrian was going to be coming in the game at 4.5 and guaranteed to be playing game week 2, would you bring him in ahead of Ryan?
Sure, I think that's definitely worth it. Although it's a double Liverpool defense, it's still, Ryan is going to concede more than Liverpool, and it's still going to be worth it to have 2 of them.
How many games would Adrian need to play for you to make that transfer work, in your opinion?
Until my wild card, probably. So 6 weeks or...
Well, just so happens that I reckon he will be out around about 6 or 8 weeks. Like, that's what the popular opinion is. So, yeah, I am looking closely at the Ryan to Adrian move, but I'm going to wait and see. on that one. But thank you ever so much.
Yeah, I want to.
But thank you ever so much for joining us this evening, buddy.
Yeah.
You've got a solid team there. I look forward to speaking to you for the preview show next week. All right, so FPL Boona.
Can we get one live soccer, please?
Well, I would do, but FPL Boona is sitting pretty, and I know that he's quiet, and he's not a quiet person. Boona, are you there?
I'm not a quiet person. I don't feel like being quiet right now either.
I don't want to look at your coffee cup. I'm not interested in that. I want to look at your team.
No, you really don't.
Come on, come on. It's not that bad, is it?
Yeah.
Is it really that bad? Come on, bring it up. Bring it up. The stream want to see it. Blame Boona.
Give me a minute.
It's 77 points, isn't it? In all seriousness, Sure it is.
Yeah.
77 points. I mean, that's okay. Forget about other people's scores. We've had some freakish scores of 120 points plus, and obviously there's a lot of people that's showing off their 90 points plus. I think 77 points isn't something to be depressed about, mate. I mean, it's just those are capturable points. It's just unfortunate how your game week's gone. I mean, but Tottenham did win, so there's always the bonus of that.
Yeah, but it's the first time I've gone to a Spurs game without Kane as well. I'm such a fool. I'm going again in October with Brew from here potentially, and I'm making sure I've got Kane in there. So
the question for you, Boone, is that last night you were basically saying to make a -4. You slept on it. Are you still thinking about doing that -4, or are you thinking no, I'm going to stick with Mora, but maybe get rid of Walker Peters?
It might be a -8 or a wild card now. That sleep hasn't helped at all.
Right. Okay.
And my head's scrambled, and I'm this close to hitting that wild card button because there's a few players that I really don't like the look of in my team right now.
I think we may have our first patient of the stream.
Yes.
So plug in the ECG, and let's just calm ourselves down a little bit now, because I think you may be overreacting a little bit here, Boona. I genuinely do. I think Walker Peters was always going to be a risk. You even said it yourself. It was always going to be a risk having him in. Obviously, you can switch him out. I'd be bringing in my old mate Wan-Bissaka myself. But look at, I mean, Lucas Moura got your return. You know, Wilson got your return. I mean, it's only 4 players that have not done anything for you. You got returns from your two. So obviously Sterling Salah's returned. You've got Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk. I mean, it's not that bad, really. It's just, it's just one of those things. I mean, Fraser, are you really going to take... I mean, you're really going to think about taking these sort of players out? Fraser out, Perez out?
No. But Bournemouth assets aren't my concern right now. I'm still confident they can score next
week. You're thinking Jota's not going to be...
Jota's the fourth of my worries. Right now, I'm worried about the players that I'm definitely taking out. Definitely. Walker Peters and Moura are gone. They're so gone, they're in a different country right now. They're not even in England. And... I'm really not happy with Perez. Like, Perez played so poor today, and it's not just the fact that he returned 2 points. It's more than that for me. Like, I watched every game today. Like, I watched the game that was on the TV, and then I had the other Leicester game up on my phone at the same time. And then I watched the United game, and Perez was terrible. Like, he wasn't very involved, and then he got hauled off. Not Maddison, not Tielemans, but Perez. So he's a bit of a worry for me. But then Chelsea's performance today didn't really fill me with much confidence. So then that kind of, makes me think, do Leicester maybe have a bit of a chance there?
I think it's worth giving Perez another shot. I think just getting rid of him after one game week may be a slight overreaction. I mean, ultimately, it's this is just advice. But I looking at that team, Walker Peters would be a candidate for me to just take out, purely because there's uncertainty there. It's going to cause you a headache. And obviously, I'd be looking to bring in Wan-Bissaka. He's an absolute bonus point magnet. And I just think he's playing really well. Well, he played well last season. There's no reason to suggest he's not going to play well under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I think stick with Moura as well. I mean,
really.
I think for one more game week, before Son's return.
Yeah, mine is scrambled.
Don't take a -4. Don't take a -4 to take someone like Lucas Moura out, because it's not like he didn't do anything. This weekend.
What interests me though is the fact that you had a plan. And reality is that Lucas Moura has actually paid off. I mean, the most you would have expected from Lucas Moura is a minimum of an assist. He got you an assist. But there's a reason why you brought him in. You knew that they were having City. It's not like a random 8. It's not like we don't know what the fixtures are. Surely you must be wanting to stick with the plan you originally had.
Do you know what it is? Moura, I was obviously there and I watched the game, and Moura just didn't look at it. And maybe if Eriksen, starts next game, then it might be a bit different. Because when Eriksen came on, the whole team vibe just changed. But then I remember it's Man City, and we've got no hope. Honestly, we've got no hope. I don't know if we managed to get like an emergency loan right back in or something, then maybe. But
if you were to do Walker Peters and more at your team, who would be the players you're bringing in?
Okay, so there's quite a few I'm considering. One of them was Maddison, because he impressed me today. I know he didn't return, and you don't get points for looking good, but just generally and I know Ari Aroki's in the chat saying, "Don't listen to me. I was bigging up Maddison," but he did look involved today, and he was on set pieces, on corners, and that Chelsea defence isn't exactly rock solid right now either. So that's one option. The alternative option is, I really like the look of Richarlison and Everton generally from the match of the day highlights. So Richarlison's an option, and it would mean downgrading Walker Peters to the likes of Dunk to free up that 0.5.
I might be talking my Man United hat on right now, but out of all those players, I'll be bringing in Martial. Like
I didn't like the look of him today.
I do like it. I see that I watched like you. I watched the game and I was impressed with the movement. I was impressed with his movement, his ability around the box. I mean, he got a goal.
Yeah.
I think there's goals in that United team with him and Rashford, and Pogba's starting to look like he's playing those passes again, where like everyone's kind of like, it's almost like KDB-esque pass over the top, and Rashford and Martial could be on the end of those. I just looking at if you were gonna take Moura out, I personally wouldn't be bringing Richarlison in. I don't trust him. I don't trust Richarlison. And I certainly wouldn't be doubling up on Leicester. If you're thinking that Leicester aren't
doubling up? No, it'd be single.
No, you said about Perez.
Oh right, sorry, gotcha. Yeah, no. I'm not leaning towards that Maddison move only because it's Chelsea and Kante will probably be back next week anyway. But on the Martial stuff, the defence today was terrible, and I think as much as United played well, I think Chelsea's defence was shambolic, and it kind of played into your hands. And once you got 1 or 2 goals on the board, their heads dropped even more. They tried to go for it.
That's a fair point.
The other point. Why I'm not so keen on Martial at the moment is Wolves looked so resolute in defence today. Like volley, the whole of that defence looks solid, and I think United will have a much tougher challenge playing Wolves than they did Chelsea today. And I don't think United have the best of history either against Wolves.
Obviously, they struggled last season. We don't want to repeat. We don't want to repeat the result of last season. But I just think that like I was saying pre-season. Like I was saying on Friday, I've got no evidence to back it up, and this is just completely my gut. I just think that this season United's going to be a different breed of animal, and I think a lot of people, like the previous caller said, a lot of people are going to be just overlooking Man United, and I think sooner or later there's going to be a wild card that features at least a couple of their players in it. Anyway, but Bruno, whatever you decide to do, just just don't react just yet and wait. You've played the game long enough to know that you just wait and see what happens. But yeah, any final thoughts, Steve-O, on what Boona said?
No, not really. All I would say is that the history is suggesting in the Tottenham game versus you lot that it could end probably 1-0. There's been 3 1-0s involved in the last 6 fixtures between you guys. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a tight game. But who knows? You did come on yesterday and you said that you're going to get absolutely destroyed. So there have been a few, shall we say, a lot of goals scored against you in 3 of the matches as well. So it could be either one of those, really, where it could go either way.
Cool.
If you're happy to stay on, you can stay on if you wish. We're going to bring another caller in. We've got Dan Bull.
Yeah.
We've got Dan Bull. Obviously you probably all know who Dan Bull is. One of our former hosts on the show. We're going to bring him on now. Dan Bull, you can hear us. Probably all know who Dan Bull is. Dan, he's committing the cardinal sin there, Dan. Listening to the stream. Hey, how you doing, buddy? You right?
Yeah, good. I'm watching it on my TV and I'm behind.
No, it's fine, mate. It's fine. Welcome here, man. I saw you posted a screenshot a little bit earlier on. I don't know why, but your phone seems to put like a weird, like sepia tone tint on your screenshots for some reason. It looks like your phone. It looks to me like it's like a screenshot from the 1940s. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I got my filter on. I actually forget that I've got it on, so I'll take it off next time.
Oh, that's fine. I can read it out for those in chat who can't read it. So it's Pope in goal with the 8 points.
I don't want to give
In fact, no. In fact, I'll let you read it out, Dan, instead of me reading it out. So talk me through your team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty pleased, really. But like you were saying earlier on, it's just been such a ridiculously high-scoring week in the money leagues, and yeah, I mean, defensively, Zinchenko, not Shevchenko, Zinchenko, Digne, PAA doing pretty well. Obviously, Sterling, Salah doing really well as well. And then the rest of it is a bit of a disappointment. I'm really worried about Glenn Murray with this new striker that Brighton have got coming off the bench and scoring twice.
Mapai.
You know, that was always a bit of a gamble, and people were telling me, oh, he's getting on, he's a rotation risk, and I kind of stuck to my guns. But now, after seeing that yesterday, I was just a bit like, oh, don't know. So I'm a bit worried about that one.
Yeah, I spoke to a few people about Murray. Yeah, it is a bit of a punt having him in your team.
Yeah, it is. I wanted to sort of take a little bit, you know me, I like to take my little bit of a gamble, bit of a differential in there. Ironically, Decore was one of the players I had in one of my initial drafts, and he got the own goal. But the ball was coming across to Murray, and I thought Murray had actually scored, but it was Decore that got the last touch. And then, thin margin. Sigurdsson, you know, having a shot cleared off the line, and Jota not doing a lot. So, but yeah, generally a pretty good game.
I mean, 84 points. It's a great game week.
Yeah, I know. I was saying to Steve-O this morning, one of the new guys in one of our cash mini leagues, he triple captain Kane, and it's like, I think it's his first season doing fantasy football.
Yeah.
And it's like this fearless thing of people that are new to the game. They'll just do something crazy like that, and it's just, yeah, it is.
Dan, as an Arsenal fan, pleased with the result today?
Yeah, it wasn't a great game to watch. I mean, the United game was quite entertaining, but it was just a case of grinding out and getting the result, really. I thought Maitland-Niles played really well. Aubameyang played really well. Guendouzi played well. Rest of it was pretty average, but then we had quite a few players out. Obviously, none of them.
It looked like a second string, basically.
With the Aubameyang up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lacazette obviously wasn't fully fit. Ceballos didn't play. David Luiz didn't play. Pepe came on late on. Ozil and Kolasinac, obviously with his security concerns, didn't play. So there was quite. Yeah. It was when I saw the team sheet, I was quite worried. But I'm not being funny. But Newcastle, like my mate Almiron, was trying, but he wasn't getting very far. And yeah, they looked pretty poor by all their endeavour. They didn't look great.
Well, I mean, I've asked a few of the callers. You probably heard me asking. Is there any? So you've identified Murray. Who would you? What transfer would you do with Murray if you were to get him out your team?
But Cy Benhamy's listening in now.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because I love my I love my 3-4-3 formation that I played a lot last season, but I might have to deviate from that and take one of my famous 4-point hits that Steve-O loves so much, because I'm pretty sure that this new I can't remember his name, but this new striker for Brighton is going to play the next game. Murray
is it Mapai?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he scored after 63 seconds after coming off the bench. I see the comment in chat about getting Keane. I had Keane in up to Thursday, but I took him out, and obviously he didn't start yesterday. So, I mean, it was just a case of like, I had this thought process of, shall I get Lucas Moura instead of Perez and get like a cheap striker, or shall I stick with Glenn Murray, stick with my gun, keep Perez in? And that was the sort of struggle I was having. And actually, I tuned in Friday just after 6 o'clock, and I transferred De La Feu out for Jota because I saw I saw everyone had Jota in and I started panicking. So I don't know, man. It's tough because Brighton have got some good fixtures at home and his record was really good at home. So I'm gonna have to do some thinking about
it would be a straight swap from Murray to Mapai, more pie or more pay is what Bruno's saying it's pronounced. But yeah, I mean I don't think you necessarily need to take a point hit there, Dan. Taking a point hit this early in the season, obviously give the players a chance. You've got a great lineup there. Obviously Sigurdsson, Perez on another day could easily return you decent points. It's just again with Jota, Murray. I said it to another caller as well. When he came on, Murray is always going to be a bit of a risk purely because of his age, B because of his minutes, and now obviously with that signing more pay, being vying for minutes too, it's going to take away the time for Murray. And I just think maybe just play it safe. Maybe do a sideways move. That's just my opinion. If you're going to do a transfer, don't spend points taking Murray out of team. Don't take -4 taking Murray out of team.
Well, this is it. It's like learning from the lessons from last season. And I remember Steve-O was like saying about all the 4-point hits I took, and like I'd just be like week after week come on the show and be like, well, taking a 4-point hit, but when you tally it up over the course of the season, you can really screw yourself over. So like you're saying, I mean, I do sympathise with Boona because he sounded quite down actually. Because I know he put so much effort into his.
He does. He can tell you himself. He puts in 110%. But it's just. But anyone that knows FPL, all of you guys in chat, yourself, Boona, Steve-O, anyone that knows FPL, you can have one game week where things don't go your way, but the next game week it can all be reversed. And if you don't rush and panic, and sometimes doing that makes things worse. And just holding on to these players one more week, I mean, you just can pay dividends. So, but yeah, I mean, just so set yourself up for game week 2, Dan. Look forward to seeing you getting 90 points next week as well.
That'll be the aim, mate. That'll be the aim.
All right, Dan. Brilliant. Cheers for that, buddy. Speak soon.
Just to let everybody know, we're only going to be on for the next 40 minutes. We're going off there at 10 o'clock. So we've got 40 minutes. We've got a lot of people in chat. So we want to get through them, as many people as possible. I think One Life Soccer, I think would be brilliant to get on because his team's done really well. He came in at 9 o'clock. His team's coming out. So it'd be really good to hear from One Life Soccer, Jason.
One Life Soccer TV. You're live on the Sunday Surgery with myself and Steve-O. I got your team up here. So talk us through. I hope you can hear us. Oh, hang on. He's just moved out again. This is what happens. Here we go. One Life, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent, excellent. Let's bring your team back up. So what's your total point score for this week?
It's going to be 76 once I get the Dendonka points off my bench.
Oh, 76.
So one less than Boona. Straight away, we'll just get the question out there. Bernardo Silva, David Silva. Why?
Yeah. I said I was trying to do something different. I knew everyone would have Sterling. So I was trying to be a bit clever and have some differentials, and it's totally backfired.
How were you feeling when Sterling got a hat-trick? Well, before that, Bernardo Silva benched. And then Sterling goes and throws in a hat-trick. David Silva hasn't even got you even a single assist. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm actually a football manager myself, so you know, I was doing the warm up with my team and all that, and then someone's come running up to me, goes, "Have you heard the Man City score?" And I'm like, "No," because it was 1-0 at half time when I tuned off, and then he's come to me and goes, "Nah, they've won 5-0 and Sterling scored a hat trick." I tell you.
You were off. You were off by one midfielder. I mean, you chose obviously Bernardo and David Silva. If you'd have chose Mahrez, I mean the hat trick. Exactly. I mean, it's just the Pep roulette.
Well, I mean, where's that come from though? But I mean, Pep loves Bernardo Silva. Played him literally every game last season, and then out of the blue, Mahrez has started and got a hat trick of assists. Where does that come from?
It's crazy. I mean, your team is screaming out just difference. I mean, Holebas, like I don't know if you heard me on last week, but I was saying Watford. I'm not convinced with Watford. I'm just going to hold.
Convinced. Yeah.
No, I mean, but then, like I said, it's been one game week, and you know, you can't just take it.
Yeah, if I had Sterling in this team, I've got like 90 something points.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I took the risk. And it's
I mean,
as I say, it's backfired. But the problem I've got though is, does Bernardo Silva play the next game, or is he now somebody I have to get out?
That's the $1 million question. That's $1 million question. I mean, only person who knows that is Pep. Because it would be
my original plan was to sub Kane for Aubameyang. That was going to be my game week 2 substitution.
It's just like Pep to obviously Mahrez get a hat trick of assists, and next week he's on the bench, and it's just like, ooh.
I think he plays. I think Bernardo plays because remember I said yesterday that it was apparently he was only benched because it was his birthday. I don't know how much truth's in that, but I've seen quite a few sources saying that.
Why would you bench someone because it's their birthday? It makes no sense.
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, One Life Soccer TV, you've not done bad with your picks. I mean, a lot of them have returned you points. It's just like you said, you just got unlucky with the Man City. I mean, Van Dijk, Digne, Pope getting you the 8. I mean, Kane, Firmino. I mean, and Salah captaincy. I mean, it's just, I don't think you need to be too concerned. Obviously, 76 points. It could be better, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, obviously, I don't like playing catch up. I'm normally one of the front runners, and in a lot of my leagues now, I've now got a little bit of catching up to do. So. That's the difference. Sometimes
that's part of the fun is chasing and overtaking your rivals. Yeah. But if you were to do a transfer for next week, which player would it be and why?
So as I said, I had pre-planned Kane for Aubameyang. That was my pre-planned one. If I get an inkling that Bernardo's not going to play, then I would then just keep Kane playing, and then I would change Bernardo for Richarlison. Because just off the match of the day that I watched, he didn't score obviously, but I think he took quite a few shots. Was looking to be dangerous.
Not convinced by a showing of Martial just yet. Then not thinking that.
I like Martial, but I thought United. I mean, I watched the game with a lot of United fans today, and United were thoroughly outplayed in terms of their football, but they were just more clinical in front of goal. But I'm not convinced about Man United from what I saw. Chelsea, if Chelsea had a goal scorer on that pitch, I think Man United could have easily been 2 or 3-0 down before they scored.
I don't know. A lot of the shots did come out. I mean, a lot of the shots through to De Gea did come from just like almost at the edge of the box. I mean, it was
Tammy's one, isn't it? If Tammy's one that hits the post goes in.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a different game. Yeah, it could have been a different game.
And Barkley's low-driven one, which De Gea saves with his feet. If those two go in, it's a totally different game, I think.
It is, but I mean, there was also a lot of there was obviously a lot of good defending from United in that game. I'm quite. I guess the question I'm asking is, with United being so clinical, I mean, Boona said it more of a case of Chelsea's defence being weak, and I'm inclined to agree. I mean, they did make mistakes. Zuma had no reason to hack out like he did at Rashford, and I just think it's not really like him. But I think the clinical finishing of United has got to certainly have them now kind of a little bit closer. Yeah.
So like I'm looking at Firmino, I could downgrade to Rashford, and I actually save $1 million doing that sort of move. So definitely on my watch list, but not something I'm going to.
Absolutely, I certainly if you're going to do the Kane to Aubameyang would be interesting. Obviously, kind of a bit weird, isn't it, transferring Kane out after he's giving you so many points? So.
But Aubameyang's record against Burnley, I think he's got a very good record against Burnley, hasn't he? So.
And I'm going to be jealous of all the Aubameyang owners come game week 2 that have got him in. I will be jealous. So you'll be one of those I'm envious of. So yeah, thank you, One Life Soccer TV, for coming on and sharing your team, buddy. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for that.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers.
Let's bring on Charlie, Chicken Tikka Mo Salah. Let's bring him on. He's only just posted his team. So the last time we spoke to you, Charlie, you were drunk. You were triple captain Salah. You were swaggering about the place. And then today, well, how are you feeling now?
Well, I'm still obviously happy because after when Rico goes on my team, I'll have 104 points.
Wow, well done.
That's just ridiculous, mate.
I was gutted. That I didn't triple captain Sterling, but that's life, isn't it?
I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? But
yeah,
I mean, 104 points, game week 1. That sounds a little bit familiar, actually. I think I got 103 points last season, game week 1. 104 points. is amazing. Your triple captain, regardless of the fact that you had Sterling in your team, your triple captain did pay off, and a lot of and the majority of your team has paid off. I mean, Matt Ryan 9 points, Van Dijk 8 points, Wan-Bissaka 8 points, Digne 6 points. Your whole year defensive line returning you points there, and then the Wilson and the Firmino pairing up from obviously King a bit of but we know about King. I mean, it's one of those where going forward, Trossard. Is he going to stay in your team?
Probably not, because that's what I was saying to you guys. I was like, oh yeah, he's an important player. He's been playing all pre-season, and then he goes and plays no minutes, and I was like, what? Because I didn't even realise until after the game that he didn't play.
It's one of those where you really like pre-season is just you got to take it with a pinch of salt and go with the safe bets, go with the safe options. And that's why when I was obviously I know that Ceballos had that slight injury, and do you remember when I had Ceballos in my team, I was thinking, you know what, I can use him as an enabler to bring in Kane. And the more I thought about it, I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I taking a risk? Why am I setting myself up for a headache? And when I see people that have gone with Glenn Murray, like Dan earlier on, Glenn Murray in their team, or yourself with Trossard, I just think to myself, like, you're giving yourself, you're potentially giving yourself a problem that you didn't have to give yourself. And I mean, 6 million. Who are you thinking of bringing in? I take it you got no money in the bank.
No money in the bank. So I'm not actually sure yet, because obviously, I think on the other stream it was either before the Friday game or on the Thursday, I said that I was going to do Aubameyang and Jota in for Firmino and Wilson, but I'm probably not going to do that. I might. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I haven't, because there ain't really that much with 6 million, is there? Apart from Barkley?
I think I'm going to go with Ad Whitfield's comment in chat. We talked about him earlier on. His name was Mr. McGinn, Lionel McGinn for Aston Villa. If I had no other money, I've had 6 million, which you've got, and I wanted Trossard out of my team, I know I said I wouldn't take a punt, but McGinn's performed all right this game week. He did really well in pre-season. I think McGinn as a pick is better than Trossard, especially with the fixtures. I mean, sea of green fixtures ahead of him as well.
Yeah, I'm just not sure at the moment. It's quite tough.
Absolutely. Just mull it over, sleep on it, give it a few days. But if you're gonna, Steve-O, did you have anything to say of Charlie's team? I mean, he's done really well, hasn't he?
He's done very, very well. I mean, I would say that you must be feeling a bit down at the fact that you've used a triple captain, but a lot of people that are in the high hundreds. Friend of mine, Nick Reedy, got 104, didn't play as triple captain. You must be a bit disappointed that you've used up that chip now, and a few people that haven't used it have got similar-ish kind of points.
That's the only thing. Like when I was watching the Man City game, I was there like, oh wow, Sterling is playing out of his skin, and then he goes and gets a hat trick. He could have had 4 goals and 1 assist if the VAR, because he was going to take the penalty, I think, but then Guerrero took it off of him, and he could have had an assist as well, so that would have been even worse. But yeah, I'm still quite happy. Obviously, it's a bit annoying that obviously I used it on Salah, but. I'm still happy. It's a good start.
Don't be annoyed. Like I said, and I'll keep saying it, the triple captainship, in my opinion, is the lesser of the 3. And I wouldn't be that bothered about using it now. I mean, I didn't use mine, so but I wouldn't be too bothered. I mean, getting the return from Salah, 36 points. It's good. Yeah. It's good at the end of the day. But Brilliant. Thank you, Charlie, mate. Thank you for coming on.
Cheers, dude.
Thanks.
We've had Shaban in the waiting room for a while. Let's get him on.
Yeah, I will do. I was going to read a few of the comments out. Leozzy in chat says Villa's fixtures are decent. Good Munson worth of punt, says Arafat.
No.
We've got Sean Dice not paying Gibson was the only bad in my back line. I mean, I wouldn't have any.
Why you don't Gibson? I don't know why.
People like to go with these outside picks, I guess, but thinks that Trossard rotates with Gross. Yes, Fast Air says in chat. Love the structure of that team, obviously referring to the previous team. That was Davey P. Going back through, saying people were saying that Everton's defence is weaker without Zuma. Zuma goes to Chelsea and ruins a clean sheet with 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes, by giving away a penalty, while Mina comes in for Everton and gets 3 bonus points. Arafat, well said, my friend, well said. Cameron Rawcliffe in chat says, I'm pretty happy with 87 points. Captaining Sterling got me 40. Would have been a lot worse if I captained Salah. I mean, yeah, but it's only 8 points, isn't it, really, to be honest with you? Pepe got 20 minutes today. How about us looking for game week 2? If you've got the money free and if you've got a hole that's burning in your pocket and you really want to make a transfer, then yes, you could possibly go in with Pepe. I mean, obviously that attractive fixture against Burnley, but I mean the main one for me would be Aubameyang and that Arsenal team to get in. But Pepe, we don't know what he's going to be like in the Premier League. He didn't have much time today to show us, but it could be one of those options. AI. Really,
I'm a bit mindful of the time, Jason. 28 minutes left. We've got quite a few people, quite a lot of regulars in the chat. So let's get on.
Zulu Ninja.
Yeah, he's just posted the team.
Zulu Ninja.
Sterling captain.
You're live on the Sunday surgery with myself and Steve-O. Welcome. Can you hear me okay?
Can indeed, boys. You all right?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, Sterling captain are here. Absolutely fantastic. We've got to get through these calls as quickly as possible. So if you can make your points as quickly as you can regarding your team. Straight away, the simple question is, I'm looking at Alderweireld, City up next. Are you worried?
Yes. Alderweireld is on his way out. That's the transfer I'm making. Who's going to replace him? Still undecided whether it's going to be Maguire or Zinchenko. I think they're the two I've narrowed it down to.
It's got to be. I mean, it's got to be Zinchenko.
Yeah, I mean, doubling up on Man United. I mean, I'm singing the praises of Wan-Bissaka, but I think doubling up on United is a bit premature.
I just think Wolves are shocking. I don't think they're going to do anything this season.
Oh!
I just saw Jason's eyes lit up there. Yeah, that was a bit of a statement there. Yeah. I mean, we wanted you only on for about 30 seconds, and now we're probably going to get you on half an hour to discuss why you think Wolves are going to have a shocker.
I mean,
it's like when Ipswich qualified for Europe years ago. The next season they got relegated. I think Wolves are going to finish bottom 6 this season.
Wow.
What, by drawing every game 0-0?
Yeah, I think they're just going to really, really struggle. They're just not going to cope with the squad depth.
Well, if you would, I don't think you'd be. Well, it's all hindsight, but I don't think you'd be saying this if they'd have got that goal that was disallowed by VAR. So I don't know. I mean, if it's your opinion, it's a completely valid one. So you're saying Zulu Ninja is saying that, yeah, that's a bit of a clickbait title there, Jason. Bottom 6 for Wolves. Just one quick question before we let you go. You must be overjoyed with the Sterling captaincy. Remind people why you went with Sterling instead of Salah.
Because if I captained Salah, he would have blanked and Liverpool would have got beat. And I'm a Liverpool fan.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So it had nothing to do with FPL.
Absolutely. Well, thank you ever so much. We're gonna get through the call of Zulu. We'll speak to you hopefully a bit longer later on in the week when we do the preview. But yeah, cheers for that, buddy. We're gonna bring on Statman. Statman, we brought you on air now. How you doing, buddy? You're live on the Sunday surgery with myself and Steve-O. Statman, have you posted your team recently in the RMT chat?
No,
I'll do that now, lads. 2 seconds.
No, that's all right. No worries. How's your game week been?
Not the best, but it could have been worse. Just chatting to one of the lads in the waiting room there. He's on 50. I'm on 60, so a poor week in all. But
there you go. You can tell Boona to shut up now. Then.
Straight away, Kev. While we're waiting for your team to upload. Like we said, we're trying to get through the callers as quickly as possible. Is there any immediate issues that you're thinking, I've got to get rid of this player straight away? Here we go.
Not really. Just the more. I always plan to take more out, so I'm going to stick to my plan.
Good.
There's obviously a good handful of players that look good, but no, I'm not panicking. More will probably go down to McGinn, and I'll have 3 million in the bank. I like that. Going into game week 3, I can do whatever I want. You know, if I want to go up to Kane, if I want to go up to Sterling.
Yeah, you could get rid of Wilson.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm going to stick with Wilson. Fraser would be the one Fraser would be the one that's on the chopping block. But yeah, I'm just going to wait and see because I played my wild card in Game Week 3 last year, and I just went on leaps and bounds. I felt like people that had a better start last year were in that middle, like they didn't want to change nothing. They were content with the team. Where because I got off to a bit of a rough start last year, I kind of made the perfect wild card quite early, and I just went on a great run from there. So I'm not opposed to using it next week, but at the moment, I'm not panicking. It could have went better. Liverpool could have kept the clean sheet. I put Rico ahead of Wesley, which nearly worked out until the last few minutes. And Heaton looks good. I'm still banking on Wesley doing the business. So yeah, it's just not having Sterling. That's the main one, lads.
Yeah, the Sterling points have hurt you, but Statman, I mean, stick to your guns, stick to your plan, buddy. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And just because you got 60 points this game week doesn't mean next game week you're gonna claw them back. I mean, I like your the more transfer down and saving points and possibly freeing up Vardy, bringing Vardy into a premium striker or more of a premium striker, and yeah, I think you'll be set. I mean, you got a bit of rotation there with Wesley on the bench. I don't play the game that way myself, but I respect people that do, and yeah, look forward to seeing how your team shapes up for game week 2.
Yeah, lads. Cheers for that. What's that?
No. Finish what you're going to say. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say cheers for having us on, and everyone that's down around that 50-60 mark, like, just don't worry. You know what I mean? No. It's game week 1. It could go the other way next week, and we could be the one in the 80s, and you lot could drop down. So
absolutely,
it's a marathon, not a sprint. But cheers, lads. Thanks for that.
No, thank you for coming on. We're just a bit pressed for time. That's all. So we'll bring on next guest, and that will be we got Phil and Joggernauts. We're gonna bring on Phil. Phil, you live on the Sunday surgery with Jason and Stevo on the Elite FPL podcast.
Evening, gents.
How you doing, Phil?
I'm looking up at this high tower of elite FPL players before me, thinking about their disappointment as I pick them off one by one during the season now.
Absolutely, that is the attitude to have, Phil. The epitome of the attitude. Now, what? Remind everybody what score you on at the moment. 50. Right. So there are people that have got double that.
I was on 32. Yeah. I'm not worried about that. That's 1 week, Jason. Don't panic.
I'm not panicking, mate. I'm not panicking.
You're a rival.
I mean, it's not like I've got double Bournemouth forwards or nothing like that doing that. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say that. Can we bring your team up?
If we have to.
Come on. Post it in the RMT. Go on. So
captain.
I'm at the bottom of the league, Jason. It's quicker that way.
Oh, right, there we are.
Right, it's fine. Don't worry. Right, so...
But in all honesty, I'm not too bothered about my choices. A few things either way. If Firmino had got a goal, if Sigurdsson had returned, then I'm up on 70 plus points and I'm happy-ish.
I mean, is there any players in your team that you're thinking immediately, I've got to get rid of him?
I'm going to give Trossard would be the one. I'm going to give him another week.
Yes, that's the thing. I agree. There are players in my team where I'm thinking, do I give you 1 more week or not? There is one player I'm thinking of getting rid of. But
Wesley, I heard you say. The concern with Wesley I've got as well is I think if Villa are winning 1-0, he's going to be taken off after sort of 70th minutes and have reduced minutes.
Yeah.
I've got your team up on here. Now, and it's just bad luck, mate. It's just bad luck. It really is. It's come down to bad luck. I mean, your captain Firmino. I don't know if you guys have watched, but I did that post earlier on. I posted a video,
I see that.
and I was really shocked when you said that you switched from Aubameyang to Firmino. Obviously, the irony is 2 points, but the pure balls to going away from the safety options and go for these differentials is quite admirable, really. And
well, Kev had been saying about he was quite sure Newcastle would be sort of a 1-0 game for
yes he did
Newcastle.
Yeah.
And also someone said about the Norwich defence being in tatters, so I thought I need to get a Liverpool attacker, so I jumped up from Vardy to Firmino, which I'm actually more happier about now going forward for the next week or two. I think Firmino in the history has returned against Southampton, so I'm happy owning him next week.
No, I mean,
I'm going to probably
you don't have to do
captain
some
him
major.
again.
Don't have to do major changes, but Trossard is obviously a player that you may be looking to move on.
After game week 2, it will be Firmino, Aubameyang, and Trossard out for Keane, Rashford, and Sterling.
Got you. Okay, I like the Rashford pick. I really do. Are you planning an early wild card, Phil? That's my basically.
Yeah. I think I can go -4 next week, and then I should still be alright wild card in 7 or 8, hopefully.
Because ironically, the only way you're going to make these points up is by having these outside differentials, isn't it? Really, because if you wild card into the popular picks, you're just playing into the hands of your rivals. So I hold true to your guns.
There was a member of the Cash League earlier discussing a wild card. It weren't my faults. It was someone else's thinking to wild card their team, but I won't say their name.
Oh well, I mean, they can come on. They can come on air and they can Boona. They can come on air and they can talk us through their wild card decision, and we look forward to hearing about it. But Phil, head up. I know your head's up, mate, and look forward to you claiming those points back next week.
No worries. Cheers, guys. Take care.
No,
cheers, Phil.
Cheers, Phil. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Appreciate it. We've got Joggernauts here as well. Joggernauts, you're live on the Sunday supplement. I was going to say Sunday surgery with myself and Steve-O. Can you hear me, Joggernauts? You got yourself muted, by the way, Joggernauts. If you can hear me, you just need to unmute your microphone.
5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. No, he's not there, Jason.
Well, let's bring in Tornado Gangsters then as our final guests. How you Anurag, how you doing, buddy? Can you just watch your microphone because it's very sensitive to your Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you blow the other way? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Anurag, you there? Yeah, speak close to your microphone. Speak closer to your microphone, buddy.
Hello.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna very quickly. We're gonna ask you how's your game week been because the line isn't very good.
Decent, 76 points.
76 points. Okay. What players did well for you? What players? What players performed well for you and what players didn't?
For me, it was AWB.
Yep.
KDB.
Yep.
Let me open the app.
I've got it up here now. I know that. So what I'm gonna do, Anurag, I'm just gonna mute you for a second because it's quite off-putting, hearing the interference there on your microphone. So I was going to bring it up on the screen now and just talk it through it. You can hear me, I can't hear you for that reason. So 76 points with Robertson, Digne, Wan-Bissaka, Van Dijk. All really great picks in your team. Unfortunately, Robertson returning the 2 points. A great Salah captaincy. Majority of people doing the same. With De Bruyne in your team as well. No Sterling. The thing is, you've had no Sterling, and that's really where those points have been missing, really. But you did bring in Harry Kane, and you spent the money on Harry Kane, and he's returned the points. I will try to ask you now, Anurag. I will try and unmute you. What is your plan, Anurag, with Harry Kane?
I'm yet not decided on transfers.
Oh, he's gone, Jason. He's gone.
Hello?
No, he's still here. You're not decided on transferring him out. So you're not tempted to do the switch to...
Yeah, I haven't yet decided. I usually decide my transfers like midweek.
Fair enough. We'll hopefully speak to you later on in the week, and we can sort your microphone out hopefully by then. But thank you for coming on the show. It's much appreciated. Because he wasn't on very long, we're going to have one final guest. On the show. Littman, you're the final guest of today's show. Welcome. You're on the Sunday surgery with Jason and Steve-O. We've been talking about people's teams and how they've performed this week, reacting to their scores. Can you hear us okay, Littman?
Mia, can you hear me?
Perfectly fine. Yeah, absolutely perfectly fine. So you've got a great score of 88 points. You must be thrilled.
Yeah, it's fine, but like I've put myself in a pretty weird situation right now with 2 Tottenham players. Same with like Boona did.
Boona did that, yeah.
But hold on a minute here. I can't stand it when people say this. Here we go, another Steve-O run.
I know what he's going to say.
You're saying, am I going off air or not?
No, I know what you're. Okay? I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, you people like yourself, you say, I've got a bit of a picker with 2 Tottenham players. Well, why did you go with 2 Tottenham players if you know that they're going to be playing Man City next? I want to know. I want to hear the thought process.
Because I wanted to transfer out just one. Like I didn't know like Tottenham would be that shit.
Well, keep the language down, but right, okay. How bad, in your opinion, do you think they played then?
I think Lamela was on it. Like he had almost an assist, but that was like a ricochet. And Kane scored that goal. He looked good, but like I'm not really looking forward to that City game.
Yeah, Boona's in the same boat as you, saying that he isn't happy with Tottenham whatsoever. Well, he's even thinking of doing a -4, maybe even a -8 to sort out his team. I mean, are you thinking along the same lines of doing a -4 to get rid of the Tottenham, or is it just a case of nope, I'll get rid of?
I think I'm considering -4, but it could be a bit too risky because I could switch Mora to, let's say, Martial. That's a good pick. But who I would be switching Lamela to would be really like a risky punt for next week. Maybe McGinn, maybe Buendia, but the fixtures are really bad. I like the look of Buendia last game. So maybe just the one transfer Mora to Martial, or maybe Lamela to someone like McGinn, just to play it safe.
Interesting thought, bro. But overall, though, you must be very happy with it.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm just gotta, I've been checking my other cash leagues and I've been seeing players, and I've been just like gathered with other game weeks incoming. So
it's one of those.
Annoyed, but I'm happy. Annoyed, but I'm happy.
You shouldn't be comparing yourself to some of these scores. I mean, you've had a great game week. Anyone over, I would say anyone over 75 points had a great game week.
Yeah, I have some like local rivalries going. Like you have the rivalry going with Steve-O, so I get some frustrations regarding to some rivalry.
I have a rivalry with Steve-O? Really? What makes you say that? I'm pretty calm about it, I think. But thank you for coming on, Lippman, and look forward to hearing how you've decided to solve your 2 Tottenham problems.
Great job with the stream, guys. Anyway.
Oh, thank you ever so much, and we look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you. Likewise.
No, thank you. All right, so yeah, we're getting towards the end of the podcast, guys. So ultimately, massively, thank you for the continued support of the channel. If you've enjoyed what we've done, please hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. It helps it grow. Spread the word. Let other people know if you want to get their voices aired on YouTube and maybe get some dissections of their team and the player choices that they're thinking of bringing in. And also getting involved with the other community as well, the wider Elite FPL community in Discord, where we've seen members grow to 550. We're going to be rapidly approaching the 600 member mark by next game week deadline. So if you want to get involved and join our Discord, !Discord in chat. FPL Boone has just put it in there. Come and join us. It's free. It's open to everybody. Your opinion counts. Everyone's opinion counts. There's no such thing as a bad idea in there. And we're a warm and welcome, open community. Steve-O.
Yeah, all I'm going to say is Wan-Bissaka, 2 bonus points, Eura, and that's it. Do you want me to do the admin, Jason?
Go on then.
Let's get the admin out of the way, actually. Jason actually did mention about sharing the word regarding the Elite FPL podcast. Daily Llama's post in the Rate My Team. Very, very good. If you want to share the love, Twitter. If you're on Twitter, follow us on at Elite FPL, and you'll be able to retweet what we basically when we're going live. So you'll be able to share through that. Like Jason just said, if you have enjoyed the streams, just hit that like button. If you enjoy the content and haven't subscribed, why not? We just keep bringing all this content for you virtually every other day. We're back tomorrow evening, aren't we, Jason? At some point, I don't know when, but we are going to be back tomorrow evening discussing the mini leagues.
Yeah.
So we'll be discussing the mini leagues and seeing who's top of the cash mini league, most importantly, the top 4 places, and who's in the running for the manager of the month, blah, 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 and all that good stuff. So, yeah, there we are, Jason.
Yeah, I just want to say quickly, very quickly, in terms of the cash league, we've got the total prize pool sorted out. I'm just in the final stages, just working out. I mean, I've had a really busy weekend with FPL anyway, and with other things, but we will be breaking down the prizes, and it will be announced very shortly. It's just not quite ready to announce it just yet in terms of where each price is going to be for the respective finishes. So, so that's something to look forward to. And but yeah, you guys rock, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night. Keep looking on our Twitter. We'll post it on there and Discord.
Oh, and yeah, go. Yeah.
Go on then.
No, I'm not going to say anything. Just let's get out of it.
See you now.
Just of interest, whereabouts are you? Not in the world, but are you near like an industrial machine or something? It's very 2 seconds. Just ask a couple of questions. I just need to get the door for a second.
No
Sorry.
problem,
This is what happens when you're live.
What's going on?
Not really. I'm waiting to go to gym. What about yourself?
Live on YouTube doing a stream.
Why do you feel that you're constantly changing your team, mate? Is it just there's just so many ideas?
So many ideas, so many different perspectives. I blame Brett Mollison for his 5 at back, because when you see my new team...
Wow.
Brighton home, they couldn't buy a goal in the last season.
Well, I don't know. Dan's got Glenn Murray. I think he'll have a word to say about that.
No.
I'm detecting possibly a German accent. I'm probably completely way out. But where are you calling us from?
South Africa.
On the first day, I literally just typed in FPL, like first draft, and yours came up like first. So I thought, I'll watch one of the live streams when it comes on. And then I thought, this is a bit long, isn't it? About 2 hours in. And then 3 hours later, well, an hour later, I was like, yeah, these seem alright, you know. Steven's not that bad.
I have one question for you. I want you to predict the order of the Elite FPL ranking. So, like, who do you think will finish first, second, and third out of y'all three this season?
So it's certainly no disrespect to Dan, but it's certainly going to be between me and Jason. And right now, as it stands, I'd go with Jason because my history suggests that I'm going to be having a bad season.
So I've got the 5 at the back. I just see a lot of value there. I feel like if I don't have Salah, I can spread the money elsewhere and maybe get the points another way.
All the teams now, except for obviously Salah and Sterling, these players, a lot of players are going to change towards the start of the season just because of new transfers, injuries that could happen, and all of that. So for me to tell you now, like personally right now, I'd say definitely if Tammy Abraham or Batshuayi are cheap, I'd get one of them just because I don't care about the Man United. We can score against them at least 2 or 3.
Hey guys, this season we're using Discord. It's a text and voice application where you can talk all things FPL with fellow community members. You can post your team in the Rate My Team, talk in the general chat, you can look at transfer news, look at awesome GIFs, sign up for our Cash Mini League, look at our previous podcasts, and even join us live on air in one of our streams. We look forward to seeing you guys. Link is in the description, or look at the code on screen.